Hi everyone, it's Joe here and Matt, and we're very excited to bring you the third episode of the Pines podcast. We've got some big news. We released the first draft wind turbine layout for consultation, which is now on our website. So if you're interested to see that, head to www.thepineswindfarm.com.au.
Yeah, which is great. And I'd also like to thank the people who came and saw it in person in the last couple of weeks in Black Springs, Oberon, and Burrigo. It was so nice to see so many people in the community face to face wanting to learn more about the project.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming along, asking great questions and having a look at our big maps to see what this is all about. The layout is in a direct response to feedback we've received from the community, such as yourselves.
Yeah, that's right. It's been the number one question.
It's been the top question. So how many turbines, where will they go? And so this layout shows approximately 250 turbines within the state's softwood plantations. And it's really the beginning of the next phase. So we've completed the investigations phase and are now in the planning and approvals phase.
Yeah, that's right. So just a quick recap about the timing. So we always intended the investigations phase to last for 3 to 6 months. We're at the end of that now and moving into planning and approvals. So quick run through planning and approvals, 3 to 5 years, construction, 2 to 3 years, and then operations, 35 years for the project. So we're still very close to the start of things. There's a long way for the project to go. But those are kind of the expected timelines from our side.
Yeah, so there's a lot more conversations to be had with near neighbours in the community, lots more cups of tea to drink, and a lot more planning to do and detailed assessments. So
Totally.
We really want to tell you all about what this particular layout is all about. So the main thing is that it is not the final layout. It's really just the beginning, as Matt has said. This layout is purely for consultation, to talk to near neighbours, what it means for them, and to really give a sense of scale. So can you tell us, how did we arrive at the 250 turbines?
Yeah, it's a good question. So a lot of what we've been doing over the course of the last kind of 4 or 5 months, and I think a lot of people watching this will recognize us from being around their kitchen table, is meeting with people and understanding, especially where people's homes and houses are in the region, and what houses kind of are houses, but when we first came, we thought maybe they were sheds, and back to front, what are sheds, but we thought might have been houses. Because for a project like this, setbacks from people's homes is probably the biggest determiner for the final layout of the project. So now that we've been around and we've been able to meet with so many people, we've been able to release this approximately 250 turbine layout for the project.
And so if you'd like us to come to your house, you're a near neighbour, you'd like to find out more what this could mean for you, feel free to get in touch with us, jump on our website, we've got a contact form, book a meeting, or you can send us an email directly to contact@thepineswindfarm.com.au as well.
Yeah, which is great. So this layout that's being released, is it intended to be the one that we take through the permitting process?
No, definitely not. So this is the first layout that we're really intending to speak with near neighbours about, talking about different setbacks. This turbine layout has a setback of 1.5 kilometres to neighbouring houses. And the intention is really to have a lot more conversations with neighbours, because nearby neighbours do have a choice about the setbacks that they would like to see from their house.
And the benefits.
And therefore the benefits from their house. So maybe we should talk about that as the next point. What does that mean? What are these setbacks all about? Why did we choose 1.5 kilometres, Matt?
Yeah, it's a good point. So anyone who's kind of been to our website or who has talked to us or come to one of the drop-in sessions would have heard us talking about the neighbour benefit scheme. And the neighbour benefit scheme, pretty much, if you are a person who's living very close to the project, you've got an opportunity to put your hand up and say, actually, I would like to receive a greater benefit for the project in exchange for having the turbines closer to my home. And it's totally optional. No one has to accept this, but it's there as an option. And so we want to come out and especially meet with those people closest to the project, just to explain what their choices are with respect to that.
That's right. So the options really are 1 kilometre, 1.5 kilometres, or 1.9 kilometres as a minimum setback from your house.
As the crow flies.
As the crow flies, with 1 kilometre obviously meaning having potentially the highest payments to you as a neighbour, but also if that's not what you would like to do, it is totally optional. And if you choose none of those options and do not want to participate, we will have to use a buffer as prescribed by the New South Wales wind farm guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. So totally optional. And the other thing that we can do now that we've released a layout is it's possible for us to come around with our augmented reality software and show you what the project would look like from your home. And the really cool thing about this is we can also show indicatively what the project might look like if the buffer from your home was 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers, or 1.9 kilometers, as Joe's talked about. So we can talk about kind of the potential benefits as well as the potential impacts in the same conversation. And we're open to having those conversations with people right now.
And the great thing about this augmented reality software, as well as it's an iPad basically on a tripod, we can place it anywhere on your property that you are concerned about potential views. And so we're happy to place that at different locations, and we can show you exactly what that may look like.
Yeah, it's been nice, hasn't it? Kind of wandering around people's properties like the last couple of weeks and kind of seeing what the project would look like from different perspectives and understanding what views from people's homes are most important to them. So reach out, contact at thepineswindfarm.com.au, or you can book a meeting directly at thepineswindfarm.com.au website.
Great.
So we talked a little bit about what the layout is. You mentioned that it's not something that we're taking to the planning and approval. So what's going to change between now and then, and how are we going to make that decision about what the final layout for the project might look like?
It's a great question, and one that's been received a lot as well. So so far over the last 5 months or so, we've had a lot of conversations already with some near neighbours to our investigation area. And there's certainly been some neighbours who've been interested in potentially hosting infrastructure as well, if it's possible for them to do so. So that is things like wind turbines or electrical infrastructure, lay down areas for construction. So this next phase is really to have those conversations again with those neighbours who potentially would like to host. There's a potential for the numbers to go up if there are freehold landholders who would like to host on their property.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the 250 represents kind of this 1.5 kilometer buffer just on the softwood plantations. But yeah, we've had really great interest from some of the neighbouring freehold landowners. So looking to have more conversations with them about potentially hosting infrastructure, including turbines on their land.
That's right. And then, as we mentioned, nearby neighbours really do have that option to choose different buffers and therefore different benefits for themselves. So again, we will be spending a lot of time speaking with the nearby neighbours, showing them the augmented reality, what does it look like potentially from their house, and then really discussing what that benefit might look like if they choose option A, which is 1 kilometre, option B, which is 1.5 kilometre, or option C, which is about 1.9 kilometre, or potentially if they wouldn't like to participate at all as a nearby neighbour. So based on that, we will take those buffers and we'll create a new wind turbine layout once those conversations are final. And then we will use that new turbine layout as an input or as a starting point for our detailed assessments, which is that 2 to 3
2 to 3 years. So that's everything from bird surveys, bat surveys, Aboriginal heritage surveys, transport surveys, noise, you name it. We need to do it. And again, if you'd like to have a long sit down with us over a cup of tea just to run through what's involved in that process, we're more than happy to come and meet with you.
And just to add to that as well, once we've completed all of those surveys, we might indeed look to change the layout again based on the results of those surveys, because they will also determine maybe where we have to move turbines here or there based on what we've found during those assessments. So this is really just, again, a starting point in terms of the turbine layout, and there'll be a lot of changes here and there over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So step 1 is where we are, draft turbine layout just for consultation. Step 2 is a layout to start all of our approvals and other surveys. But yeah, as we do those surveys, sometimes we will find things in our kind of bird surveys or bat surveys or other surveys where we either need to kind of remove or move turbines around into a final layout to submit to the Department of Planning, which is the decision maker for this project. What is it? DPHI, Department of Planning?
Housing and Infrastructure.
Housing and Infrastructure.
And they are then the final approving body who determine what the final size of the project would be, should they approve all of the turbines that we put forward.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into a few frequently asked questions. So we'll go tit for tat. So I'll go first. Joe, What will the project look like from my house if I'm
That's
the
an
project neighbor?
excellent question. So that comes back to the augmented reality. If you'd like to know what that looks like from your house based on our current layout, we're more than happy to come out to you, set up the augmented reality software, and show you from any point that you like.
That's right, open to any neighbor, no matter how close or far from the project you are.
So then reiterating, how many turbines will there be in total? What do you think?
Yeah, so we've released this layout for consultation, which is approximately 250 turbines. There's a possibility for the project to grow as we talk more with freehold landowners around the project, some of whom have already expressed an interest in hosting turbines and other infrastructure. But at this point, we're not 100% sure. We need to kind of get through all those conversations and work out what the final turbine layout is going to be. And we can only do that with input from the community.
And also, we can only show you that once the respective landowners give us permission to show you or to be included in the project. So at this point in time, that's just the beginning. Also, I'd like to reiterate, we don't have any rights of compulsory acquisition, so everything we're doing is completely with agreement with the respective landowners, whether that's for turbines or whether that's for electrical infrastructure. We have to have an agreement before we're able to do anything.
Yeah, which is good. Everything is by agreement, and that's the best way of doing things. So, Joe, why wasn't the layout released at the start of the investigation phase 5 months ago?
Great question. So at the beginning, we are new to the community. We wanted to have as many conversations with nearby neighbours as possible. And we also wanted to verify where the neighbouring house locations might be, because that can be very tricky to find online or through satellite maps. They're not always accurate. So we really wanted to make sure that the community gets to know us first before really progressing with that kind of work.
Yeah, exactly right.
Um, and so also following on from that, we often get asked, how did you arrive at the turbine numbers for the state softwood plantation? How did we get to 250?
Yeah, it's a good question. And there's quite a lot that kind of goes into that. I'm going to talk for a little while here. So it all actually starts with kind of an atmospheric wind model. So even though we were only just starting to take measurements in the forests now of wind speed, there are these kind of very clever engineers who can take atmospheric wind models and predict what the wind is going to be doing across a site. And so based on that, we can determine kind of what the spacing of the turbines is likely to be. And for this project, with the size turbines that we're talking about, it's something like 1 kilometre in the east and west direction, and 500 metres separation north to south is as close as turbines can be to each other.
So a bigger spacing in the predominant wind direction.
Yeah, that's right. It is more easterly, well, mostly westerly, but there's more westerly winds here than anything else, and so you end up with a greater separation east-west versus north-south. So we start with that. The next thing that we really look at is the location of people's homes. So like Joe was saying, we can only work that out once we've kind of met with people and understood where people's homes are in the region. And then, as Joe was talking about before, we apply this 1.5 kilometre buffer, which in our experience is kind of the most common distance that people are balancing kind of impacts of the project with benefits to them in terms of annual payments to them as a neighbour of the project.
Yeah.
And so they're the two biggest inputs that have kind of determined this layout of approximately 250 turbines.
Yeah, excellent. Very good.
And that's about all we've got time for today, I reckon.
I think so. If you
Joe?
have any further questions, if you'd like to see the big map, we're absolutely happy to come to your house, do the augmented reality if you're interested in seeing what it looks like, seeing what the big map looks like. In the meantime, please visit our website again, www.thepineswindfarm.com.au. We've got a few of our commonly asked questions on there, and you can book a meeting, as we mentioned as well. We're more than happy to come and visit you and talk further about what this all could mean for you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe. Thanks to the community.
See you next time.